Today I'm going back to Tuscany, where I'm going to be meeting with Pamela and Johnny, who moved to Tuscany from California. They have their own organic olive farm and agritourism business near Montepulciano. Yeah, I'm from England, but I've been living in Italy for 44 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, well, thanks for picking me up at the station. How many olive trees have you got?
800.
Wow, 800 olive trees.
Lonnie! There you are. Yoga! Yoga!
Hello, Pamela. At last, it's so nice to be here. And I need to tell everybody we've already had prosecco and some fried bits and pieces, which are delicious. So, and you said you're in your spot, so that's that way you usually stand.
This is my spot right
and this
here.
is your lovely kitchen.
Yeah, this is where I do my cooking classes.
You do your cooking classes. So
And-
yeah, we're going to have to talk all about this because you're so interesting. So we're near Canciano, Montepulciano.
Between the two, we're in the comune of Montepulciano, but we're closer to Canciano Terme.
Okay,
Yeah.
and this lovely place is called Poggio Etrusco.
Brava.
Everyone I meet, I ask them why they ended up in Italy. So that's what I'm going to ask you as well.
How did we get here? Well, it was 24 years ago, and up until 2001, I'd been bringing groups over to Italy to learn about the culinary differences between each region, because we have 20 regions and everyone is like going to another country. The cuisines are so different. And I started that in 1992. And then I started writing cookbooks about local and traditional regional foods. And that's where I end up now. That is what I focus on. I'm so interested in that. There's a lot of creative cooking now around, especially in the cities, which is very good. But for me, the most interesting part is how people used to cook. So back to your question, because I go off on tangents and I'm really sorry about that.
So do I. No, don't worry.
But I do want to talk about the regional cooking. But anyway, yeah. So how did we get here? I was coming back and forth from California 2 or 3 times a year, staying 2 or 3 months at a time. That was before we had the limits on how often you could come and stay here. And it was, it was a long commute, but it was really lovely and wonderful time to be in Italy. Everything was still very original, and the people were open and generous, and they still are. So back to the question that you originally asked, which was how did we end up getting here? I had been doing this back and forth commuting for 5 years, and in 1997, my husband and I, Johnny Johns, adopted a child. We adopted Alaya, and she was born in Russia. And we brought her back to the States and made her an American. And then she came with me. She traveled with me, and it was wonderful. But at a certain point, she had to start school. And I just said to Johnny, I guess I'll have to stop going to Italy. Sad face. He doesn't like a sad face. So he said, just spur of the moment, he goes, why don't we move there? And I was just, everyone who comes to see me says, oh, you're living your dream. But honestly, we weren't dreaming about it. It just was like that. It was so spur of the moment, which is very unlike me. We said, okay. And honestly, with just in a few months, we had put all of our stuff that we wanted to bring in a 40-foot container, and we came over here. I had come over on my own first and found this beautiful house. And when we arrived, you'll have to ask Johnny about it, but he walked up and he said, so this is where we're going to live. And it was amazing. And it's an agriturismo. So it's got extra apartments in it, in our own home, that we could also make a living out of it. And I could do my cooking workshops here, because prior to that, I was renting agriturismos and places to do my cooking classes here. And this just made good business sense. So that's basically how we got here.
So were things easier back then? I don't think you'd be able to do that these days so easily. Do you think, or not?
I think you could. I think you could. But a lot has changed. A lot has changed, and I'm grateful to have come when I did, because I just think that there's so many details now that we were able to work out as we learned about things and lived here. But now you need to be well aware of what you're getting into, and especially, I know a lot of people are talking about coming to live in Italy or buying property here. One of the things that they write to me, they're like, we want to do this, can you help us? And I refer them to different people that can help them. But they think, many of them think, I'll buy a house, I know I can only stay 6 months out of the year and 2 visits. The rest of the time I'll just rent it out and I'll have income and it'll pay for the property. But it's not that easy. It is not that easy. And without going into it too deep, what happens is, and my advice to every single person is, number one, learn Italian. And number two, you have to think about your worldwide income, because especially for Americans like myself, when you come here and you start to earn money here and you're still earning money there, this country has the right, because you're a resident here, to tax you on the money that you are earning in the US. Most people don't realize that, and it's a very important point. But if I don't want to be like doom and gloom, because I end up sounding like that, because it's a wonderful life and I'm very glad we made this choice. And I don't think, no, I know we won't go back. We won't go back. This is where we live. This is our home. We've gotten Italian citizenship. My daughter has 3 citizenships. She's Russian, she's American, and she's Italian. And I don't know what she's going to do with that, but she's grown up here. This is her home too. So I think, we're set. We're going to stay here.
How hard was it for you to get Italian citizenship?
There are a couple of ways to do it. One is, what do you call it? Juris
sanguinis?
Yeah,
Something like that. That's the Latin. But...
You have the hereditary right to take citizenship. If I believe it may be changing a little bit, but if your father's father was born in Italy and you have those documents, it's something that you can pursue. Getting it that way. We didn't have that. To finish the question, it's the second way that I know of, and there may be more, is after you've lived here for 10 years, you can apply for citizenship. And that's what we did. And it takes about 2 years to get that back, but we did that a few years ago.
And so to live here for 10 years on the trot, 1 year after the other, residency through a visa, and the visa requirements these days might be a bit different.
Well, we had a visa that is like freelance work, you could say, lavoro autonomo, which meant that we could have a business, we can work here. We, as Americans, up until we got citizenship, we could not work for someone else. I mean, you know this, right? No. So we had to only work for ourselves, which was fine. That's what we did. And after 10 years of having this residency here, then you can ask for the citizenship.
And it took a while to eventually get that. It took
about 2 years. Yeah. And several documents that were, the documents have a life of 6 months. So if you get one and you're still trying to get the others and it's 6 months and 1 day, you start over with that one. There's a bit of that also, but it's fine. It all worked out.
Yeah. Did you have help doing that? Did you have to hire somebody?
I tried to do it myself for quite a long time. And there was this timing issue. One of the things that I had to get was our fingerprints in the US to get an FBI clearance. We couldn't do it from here. There was no way at that time to do it. Maybe there is now, I don't know. So we would go to the States to visit. In the beginning, we went almost every year and we'd get that done. But then we had 6 months to get the rest of the documents done on top of all the work that we had and everything to do. So it just took a while. And finally what I did was I used an agency in New York. Because not only do you have to get the documents, you have to get them translated. You have to get them with an apostille. How do you say that? Seal on it, which is very particular. And so, the timing, I just said, I give everything I had to them and they put it all together and we got it done.
So you eventually needed help.
I
Okay.
did, because
it's impossible on your own. I
it's
suppose.
almost a full-time job doing
Yeah.
things like that. on
And do
top.
regulations change so fast that you think you're nearly there and then something else comes up?
In
Or
this case, it didn't
it
happen.
didn't.
It didn't.
Okay. So you've been here for such a long time. Have you seen Italy change over that time? How has it changed, do you think?
It's our 24th year, and I'm going to have a party next year, and you're invited.
Thank you.
A lot of things have changed. Italy has changed, and we've changed. I feel it. I feel very strongly that I've changed too. A friend of mine recently put a post up on Facebook. It said, when you have lived here for a long time and you go back home, you feel foreign. It feels different. It doesn't fit in the same way. And then you come back here and you feel, I don't exactly fit here either, because I still have all of that history and growing up in a place. And but I said, I think that it has to do with me changing more than anything. Yes, Italy has changed in the sense that we first got here, there was just a few channels on the TV. There were, we didn't have the satellite TV or any of that. The phone service was this, internet was dial up on AOL. I don't know if anybody remembers that. I'm really dating myself. There were a lot of these things, and we, of course, we're still learning the language and trying to figure out doing business in a place and living in a place, getting the child in school, getting health care, doing all the things that you have to do without a lot of help. Now you just Google something and you have an answer. Or you might have 10 answers, but at least you have some answers and you can figure out what you want to do with it. That's a huge change. But like I said, I'm the one who's changed. I feel like, in a lot of ways, I'd like to just go back to that time. I really would. But if I could, I'd bring internet with me. Because I love that. I love that contact that I have with everybody still. Well, we felt very isolated when we first got here. Then, the internet builds up and we get Facebook, and I'm still in touch with people from afar, and not missing as much as I did in the beginning. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
What about physical changes to Italy? I mean, do you see how you're interested in cooking? You do cookery classes. Have you seen the food side evolve for the worse at all?
Well, yeah, of course. I think I noticed this when our daughter was in elementary school, that the first 2 years, it was as it always had been, where the kids would come to school and they would bring a focaccia, maybe with a little prosciutto for the merenda, for the morning snack. And then the school provided lunch. And it was a family style lunch. And even in preschool, this was how it was for her. And so then at about third grade, we just went to a different school, and it seemed to me that the snacks that people were bringing were very different. They were in cellophane. They looked like Twinkies, even though you look at the packaging that I did at that time, and it said flour, sugar, milk, baking powder. Okay, I mean, the ingredients were good, but there was a big shift right there. And so then we started noticing the kids were getting fatter, and the mothers too, and the fathers too. I mean, not everybody, of course, but there was this growing trend that you could see from the snack foods, potato chips, and all these things that they weren't around before.
I remember when the law changed, because many, many years ago, when the first laws on B&Bs came out, there was this thing, you imagined having a bed and breakfast and giving people a home cooked breakfast, and yet the regulations were adamant that you would need to have everything in packages because of the health issues and everything.
That came back with COVID.
It came back.
Yeah. But I think we're back to normal again now. But we do have to have a certification that I was speaking to you about earlier, the HACCP, which certifies me in food service for sanitation, handling of food, serving of food, and all of these things that are encompassed in that, which is important, is very important. There's traceability. So if serve something to someone and they don't feel well, then we can trace back, and this is interesting, I think, we can trace back where that product came from. So, it's a bread that I have a receipt for from the bakery, and we go to the bakery, and the bakery has to prove this is the flour that I used on that day, this is the yeast that I used, these are the things that I used, and then they continue to go back and back and back until they get to the origin of, who grew the wheat, what kind of fertilizer they used, if they used pesticides, and if it got, had humidity and wasn't a good dry, clean flour when it was made. I mean, all these things have to be accounted for in our system. And the very fascinating thing to me about this is it's an American model. HACCP, Hazard Analysis and Control Procedures. It's, it should be expected of all the people serving food in the United States too. You hear about recalls all the time. I guess they're using it. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I think those kind of things have changed. And I've always been very involved with slow food. And slow food is interested in biodiversity and good products and artisans who produce these things. And I think that maybe in some ways that's getting stronger because the following is getting greater for that. There are a lot of creative and twists and turns, and I'm just, I'm a traditionalist. So.
I think a lot of people don't realize how strict regulations in Italy are on food and wine. I mean, it is very, very strict, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's comforting.
And thank goodness, we can know what's in our food for the most part.
That's probably one of the reasons the food and the wine in Italy are so good.
No, you're right. There's one big reason for that, if I may.
Yeah.
It's the fact that we don't have GMO here. No genetically modified plants or animals here. It's not allowed in Europe up till now. And hopefully it'll stay that way. And I was just in California and trying to get some very, some good food. But I'm telling you, there's a huge difference between a vegetable that we get here and what you get there. I also really believe strongly in organic. So we're certified organic. And I know I sound like I'm on a stool preaching, but it's so important to me when I think about something like milk that comes from an animal's body that I'm putting into my body. I think that it should have had clean, healthy food to eat, a clean, healthy living. And I think I don't know how we can live otherwise.
So your involvement in food is mainly because of your food courses and the trips that you used to do, but you also run a B&B here, is that true?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. And you have your olive oil. I was just talking to Johnny on the way in. How many olive trees do you have?
We have 800 olive trees and 400 grapevines. And yeah, it's all organic and it's all delicious.
And it's hard work.
It's a lot of work. It is, but I feel so satisfied about this. And
that's a lot of people's dream, isn't it? To live in a place where they've got their olive groves, their little vineyards.
I think if you have a dream to have a little farm, that olives are a good place to start. Maybe not grapes. Grapes are a lot of work. They're very, susceptible to problems. And but olives are just like, I'm here. I'm here for you. Have been for 1,000 years. I'll be fine. And except for 2 years in our 24, there were 2 years where we had no olive oil. And that came about because in 2014, there was an insect that migrated with climate change, warming up and bringing other insects up to here. We had this olive fly that devastated our olives. So 0 oil that year. That was really shocking to me. I have taken it for granted up to 2014 that we had this wonderful ingredient all the time. And then I didn't know who to buy it from. That was a problem. And then last year when everyone around me had wonderful crops and I'm waiting and looking and our trees don't have anything because in the spring we have a little microclimate right here that rained every single day during the pollination period. And washed away any work that the bees had done in the morning. Anyway, so I feel like the answer for people right now, especially when they don't live here in Italy where we don't have GMO, when you go back home, is to use organic products. Organic is going to be the best because they don't allow GMO. They're not supposed to. A lot of people, when I say that to them, say, well, it's so expensive. But I think in the long run, you need less of a really good tasting product. And if your broccoli or your zucchini doesn't taste very good, you start adding things that aren't so good for you. You start adding a lot of cheese, you start adding, nothing wrong with cheese, but cream and these kind of things, a lot of garlic. In the US, I can hardly eat there. There's garlic everywhere, and I'm allergic to garlic, so it's a problem. But anyway, it's just a matter of getting good flavor out of an ingredient. And when I do my cooking classes, everyone's like, mouth watering, this is so delicious, this is so good. And my techniques are nothing special, but it's my ingredients. And it's how I use these ingredients. It's so important. So when we talk about what GMO does, there was really a very good reason for modifying plants in the beginning. For example, they could make a wheat that was resistant to drought. And in countries like India, people were able to have food because the wheat was able to sustain the heats and different kinds of weather that they had. So it was modified that way. And I think that is wonderful. But at a certain point, it took a hard left or right, I don't know which way, and started being a commercial product. So we would get tomatoes that had thicker skins, tomatoes that are all exactly the same size, tomatoes that don't have seeds. What? I mean, and none of this considered flavor. When they started altering the genes in these things, there was no flavor considered. And so now you go into a supermarket and you see all these little tomatoes, perfectly red, all the same size. None of them taste like anything. All right, then you start putting all the other ingredients on it. So avoiding GMO is very important. So what we have though is the tomato, of course, is not indigenous to Italy. It came over from the Americas hundreds of years ago. The original tomato that came here and started growing is still the same genetically, same tomato today, okay? But you can also find, which was probably about this size, and now you can also find small cherry tomatoes. You have the San Marzano tomato, you have datterini that are like dates in size. You have all these different varieties. So how does that happen without genetic modification? It's simple. It's a selection. And the very same thing as you're a wine person, you're a sommelier. Sangiovese grape, for example. Sangiovese is the grape that's used for Brunello, Vino Noble Montepulciano, our wine. You can make Chianti Classico with it, all of these different, many other variations on the Sangiovese grape, which, yes, is influenced by terroir and also climate, microclimates. Okay, so in the 1800s, the Biondisanti family in Montepulciano, take a look at their Sangiovese grapes, and they started picking some that were bigger and reproducing those with the seeds. And then they were starting to focus on a thicker skin because that's where the tannins are. And you can age a wine longer in this way. So they created a new grape in the sense that each time they would take the seeds, they'd have a few more of the big grapes, plant those seeds, they'd have a few more, and pretty soon you have what we call a clone. In the beginning, they called it Sangiovese Grosso. And then it went to be called Brunello. We have different kinds of Sangiovese in this way without modifying it genetically, but just by selection. And I think this is really important when we talk about the food we eat, because some of the things that are happening with the tomato, with any vegetable, is not healthier. And so, yes, people say, well, it's cheaper for me to buy this ingredient or that. What would you say about that, Michelle?
I would say that medicines are a lot more expensive.
That's absolutely right. That's so
Especially
true.
in America, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah, no, we have great healthcare here. I won't complain about that.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Something we're discovering. I've been saved a couple of times, free of charge, obviously. No, it's great.
It is great. It's super. Maybe it's time that we have some lunch.
That sounds amazing.
Okay.
Really?
So
Oh,
I
great.
have made, I'll show you what I made.
Yeah, show me.
Okay.
I'll come and have a look.
So first of all, this morning I made a vegetable soup. This starts with carrot, celery, and onion, a sofrito we call it, and I cook it in olive oil for a bit, and then I start, the way I make it is kind of interesting, I think. Then I start adding the other ingredients. So I put in some cauliflower, I put in some potatoes, and I let those cook, and I keep it covered for a little bit.
Okay.
Every time I put those things in the pot and this sort of steam, it locks the flavor into each vegetable. So when you taste this, I hope, you will notice, oh, there's a potato, there's a carrot, there's a celery, and you'll get all
You
of these
can
different,
distinguish each individual flavor. Oh,
because
that's amazing.
putting them in without any liquid at that point, the heat just seals the flavor into it.
Oh, I see.
Okay, then I added some cannellini beans and some little canned cherry tomatoes. We put a lot of things up over the summer. And then I had broth that I put in hot. Again, if you put it in hot, it keeps the flavor in. If I had put cold broth in,
Yeah.
it would stop the cooking and extract the flavor as it heated up. So
where did you learn to cook like this?
I don't know, I just made it up.
Really?
Yeah. No, I really think that, well, making broth is a perfect example. I don't know if you've made it, but you start with a pot of water and you put vegetables in it. You turn it on and you heat it up, and all the flavor of the vegetables go into the water, right? But if you started with a pot of boiling water and you put the same vegetables in, the heat would lock the flavor. And so at the end, you want to decide where you want the flavor, in the liquid or in the vegetable itself. So that's why I use the heat to seal the flavor in each vegetable as I add it. And then I put in, oh, I still have a little bit here. I put in some of our, these are all winter vegetables right now.
Yeah.
In the States, they call this dinosaur kale or lacinato, which is absolutely a made-up word. I've never seen it here.
No, never.
Here it's called caballonero.
Yeah.
And it's just like
Love it.
mouthful of vitamins. It's so good. So I put some of that in there too, and then let that cook for a bit. And then I took the dry bread that I had from the last few days. This is, it doesn't have salt in it.
Oh, pane sciapo.
Yeah,
Sciocco. Okay.
Yeah, it's just because we didn't have salt in the past. It was very expensive for people, so it's a traditional bread. But salt holds the moisture into it.
Yeah.
And after a couple of days, it could be a weapon, and you have to reconstitute it.
So I was told that the bread without salt was because you have lots of quite salty charcuterie.
Well, that is true also, because the salt was used for curing meats and cheeses.
Yeah.
And then you could put the two together and it would be very good.
Okay, that's all really interesting. Do you think you would cook as well if you were still in the States? You wouldn't have the same ingredients, obviously.
I try, you know, because I do classes when I go over, but I have a hard time matching for ingredients.
Yeah.
But you know, we do it still tastes good to them.
Yeah. So what's that in there?
This is a ribollita. So I put a layer of the bread, the dry bread underneath.
Yeah.
And I put the soup over it. And then I've had it in the oven, and that's what we're going to have for lunch today.
Oh my goodness, my mouth's watering.
Ribollita.
Amazing. Ribollita.
Ribollita, really
reboiled.
Exactly. This is actually zuppa di pane in a way. Then tomorrow we would take what's left of that and put it in a pan with a little olive oil, cook it like a potato pancake kind of.
Oh wow.
That's really truly ribollita. Yeah. But this is going to be our lunch today.
Okay. Oh gosh, yeah, I can't wait. Thank you so much. This is amazing.
Okay. Where did he go? Johnny.
Amazing coffee machine you've got
here. You're going to have one of those after lunch if you like. Yeah. That's
brilliant.
We just got it this year for him. Special gift.
So where are we going now? To your studio? Because I just found out you're an artist, Johnny. I really envy you now. Silk screen.
Yeah. So see that? I did this design like a long time ago, like in the 80s.
You went to art school, right?
Yeah, I went and got a master's. Also.
Gosh.
And then I did these T-shirts.
Oh, wow.
And it says Johnny Surf Shop,
That's brilliant.
Montepulciano.
There's a lot of
And-
surf in Montepulciano.
Yeah, and Pam bought me these surfboards as a joke.
You collect sewing machines as well.
Yes, because my past, I taught in community colleges, all the things that have to do with sewing, pattern making, draping, design, sewing. But I also worked in Hollywood for costume designers. I made clothes, mostly leather and suede. And when I came here, I didn't end up doing. I tried it a little bit, but you can go to Prato or any of these other places
Yeah.
and get some decent work really cheap because they got cheap labor and the leather is cheap. But they're good. I tell people, hey,
Yeah.
those people are pretty good. But so I'm not doing that anymore. I'm just making those bags.
Oh, and you said you got projects for making bags with cinema posters.
Yes, because I know the lady that owns the local Cineplex and they throw them away.
They throw these away.
Yeah, I do like 25 or 30 a year, and that's all I have time for. And then
Yeah.
we're busy, and then I just sell
Yeah,
them. So.
because you have a lot of hospitality here, don't you? You
Yeah.
run this B&B.
And cutting grass, etc.
And you also have to take care of your 800 olive trees, your vineyard, and
Yeah.
and your vegetable patch.
I found this in the trash, and so did I.
Really? It's amazing what people throw away around here, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Of course, this time of year, it's not that exciting to look at everything. We have a swimming pool, too.
Oh, great.
That's
But
one of my
that's it. I
jobs.
mean, there's winters in Italy as well. It can get cold in Italy as well.
Yeah.
It's not all, laying on a beach or on a boat on a lake.
But boy, once it starts turning a little warmer, everything is green. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. Tuscany is beautiful.
Yeah, all of this looks fantastic.
Oh,
So,
weasel killed your chickens.
yeah, it took their heads off.
Oh, how
I'm
awful.
serious.
Yeah.
It did. I had to go clean it up. Right, Ronnie?
Well, thanks for that lovely meal. I wasn't expecting that. Your hospitality is amazing. You're such a good cook. I could taste every single vegetable in there.
I like to cook.
And
I
we
like
were,
to feed people.
yeah, I can tell. And we were chatting during lunch and, just seeing how you made friends here in Italy and you raised a child here. So you've had experiences of schools.
I don't know.
How hard is it to make friends here?
I think it depends on the person.
Exactly.
But there are some situations that make it a little bit easier, and I think one big one for us was having a child in school with other Italians. And so when there was school gatherings, we'd meet with these people or field trips or sometimes just a lunch where all the families get together. It was our first friends probably because they would be happening the same, I think, back in the States because you become friends with the parents of your children's friends.
Exactly, yeah.
I think that's a real bonus. People who come over maybe as a retired person or don't have children in the, to use in the same way. Not that I used her, but you know what I'm saying. I think it's a little bit harder to break in because everybody has their life set already and they have their lifelong friends here. And so I have made some really, really good friends. My daughter accused me once of being, most of my friends were people that I worked with. And that's true, but isn't that true of most of us?
Yeah, of
I
course.
think, and unless it's someone you brought with you all the way from childhood. And those people are still there for me. And Facebook, I know people love or hate it, but Facebook has been really wonderful for me in that sense, to be able to stay in touch with those people over the distance, sharing pictures and so forth.
Facebook groups as well, you were
Also,
saying.
yeah, the Facebook groups that we have here. And there was a group that over 20 years ago started up on Facebook. It was about the brand new time of Facebook, I think. I can't remember what year it was, but we became very close like family because we were supporting each other. Did you get your driver's license? How did you do that? And do you have some tips about getting the permesso di soggiorno, which is the document you need to be able to stay longer than the tourist visa lets you? Things like that. We could help each other out. And those groups still exist and are very important. I think it's really, really good to, even if, I think I met you like that.
Yes, we did.
I met you
Yeah,
over
that's how
on
we met.
Facebook. And
Yeah.
so the first time that we met each other in person, I felt I already knew you somewhat.
Yeah.
Of course, there's more to you than that.
Mhm. And what about the language? Because you didn't marry an Italian and come here. You moved here with your American husband. So obviously you speak English together. Has that been a barrier for you to learn Italian or not?
I don't think so because I spent 8 years here before we moved. And so I've never taken a class in Italian, but I'm a good learner. And I pick up from my environment the words that I need. I get that vocabulary. If I'm getting health insurance or I'm getting anything, I start adding those things to my vocabulary. And when it's functional like that, it really works for me.
How do you find it running a business in Italy? Is it more difficult here than it would be back in America, or is it easier?
I don't know.
Because you didn't have a business in America.
I
Okay.
had a cooking school, but it wasn't officially my business. And I think it's not that different. I think most things are not that different, really.
So
I did it.
yeah,
Still doing it.
still doing it. So I'm trying to make a list of all the things that you do and you have here, like all those olive trees. You've got a vegetable garden. You've got a little vineyard. You've got a B&B, and you don't have an awful lot of help, do you? Really? At that, how many liters of olive oil do you manage to make?
Well, it's different every year. I would say 400 or 500 liters.
Wow, that's a
something
lot.
like that.
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up because every year is different. But yeah, but it's timed perfectly. I think that the tourist season is what it is. It's sort of getting longer now, but it's the spring and it's the fall, and then the fall is olives and making the oil. Summer is a time to kind of reorganize, and we have more Italian guests than Americans because Americans have been told for so long that August is not a good time to travel here. And so usually it's not that many Americans, but it actually is a good time to travel because all the Italians go to the seaside and there's lots of things to do.
If you think about your future and having such a large property and such a lot to manage, have you started thinking about what you do in old age? What you're going to do would you relocate? Would you ever give up such an amazing place like this? Because it obviously looks like the Italian dream, doesn't it? I mean, olive groves, vineyards, it's Tuscany. It's your dream and you're living it.
I wake up every morning and I look at the view out over the olives and I just say, I don't want to wake up anywhere else. And I don't know, we'll figure it out. I mean, I've built a lot of goodwill here. And if I decide that we have to sell and move, I don't know where, but I would like to just move right here. I don't know, that's a hard question.
Where do you get your drive to handle all of this?
I don't even think about it. Honestly, just get up, I go, this is what I got to do today, and I get busy and I do it. And I love what I do. And if I think about giving up any one thing, I couldn't figure out which one it would be. I really couldn't. I know that my parents were hard workers. They both worked and they were good examples in this. And I don't know, I am driven. I am, but in a good way.
The question that came to my mind when I was talking to somebody else, do you think that making that big move to actually come here and do something that big and different gives you even more drive and even more get up and go?
I certainly have more to lose. I don't think we could go back. Not really. This life suits me perfectly. I'm happy to be here. Not easy, it's not perfect.
But it's yours.
Mm-hmm. In a way, that's it. I created this for myself.
That's something to be proud of, isn't it? To actually
proud.
get this far.
I'm proud.
You should be.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for such a lovely day.
Okay.
It's a shame people didn't see us. Really amazing lunch.
It really just got to be more relaxed after we had some wine.
Yes, absolutely.
I think we need to take you to the train.
Yes, I need to go. So
All right.
thank you very much.
Thank you, sweetie.
Bye. Thank you.